Bojo Kanoya, a Pegish Imnoya Pane. We here at Nipissing Nishnaabemwin believe peer review is an important process in the education process. However, due to lack of speaker accessibility, scheduling, and these lessons being produced by second language learners, we tend to make mistakes in how Nishnaabemwin is represented. We encourage you to think with a critical mind when watching our videos and question the validity of something said in the video that catches your attention. We are language learners and naturally don't know what we don't know. We don't discourage others from helping us out by educating us, and if you see a mistake you would like us to rectify, you can do so by contacting the email in the video description. We also ask for your patience in waiting for edits, because it is a long process to edit mistakes we share in our videos, and there is the possibility that it might not align with the speakers of Nipissing First Nation. Miigwech Bisinduyang, Wewenog Nwamdamuk.
On in Bojo Kanoya, Mr. McLeod Mondai Amina, Bajinak Queen Monim. I just want to let you guys know that links to the dictionary, PDFs to the worksheet, audio files are in links in the description of this video, as well as any other resources that'll help you out with this lesson will eventually be there as soon as I'm done making them. Aho, miigwech. On in Bojo, Mr. McLeod Mondaya. Today's lesson is an intro to VTA words, so we're learning how to interact with other animate objects in Ojibwe. So what does VTA mean? So just as FYI, when you see this sign, it means write down everything from this slide in your notes. VTA is an acronym that means V stands for verb or action. T stands for transitive, meaning that we are acting on another object. A stands for animate, meaning the object we're acting on is also animate. So basically, VTA means she or he's doing an action to another animate object. We'll pause here, give you a chance to write these down in your notes. Please pause here before continuing. All right, let's move on. All right, I think it's important that we review our discussion on nouns. And just as an FYI, we still have the sign up, so continue to write these down in your notes before we move on. Nouns are either a person, place, thing, or idea, and if you're a wild man from Dokis, you can include quality in your definition of nouns. VTA words have a minimum of 2 animate nouns involved in a sentence or phrase. Both nouns are gendered as animate in Ojibwe. One of those nouns will be the actor, the one doing the action. The second noun will be the object, the one receiving the action from the actor we discussed previously. All right, we're going to give you a chance to write down these notes before we move on. Please pause here before moving on. Miskoye, ambe. So Nishnaabemwin transitive verbs. Because we have animate and inanimate nouns, Nishnaabemwin uses 2 different transitive verbs. VTI words are animate nouns doing actions to inanimate things. VTA words are animate nouns doing actions to other inanimate things. Here's the point for you to write down in your notes. Write this down before moving on. Misae, ambemina. As a similar starting point for our learning journey with VTA words, when we learned VAI and VII words, we learned them from their smallest version, which was third-person singular versions. Transitive verbs, VTA and VTI words, are best introduced in their singular command form because that's the smallest version of the words before it's broken down into root words or morphemes. Also, from this command form, we just need to add the necessary prefixes and suffixes to manipulate the verbs as necessary. Prefixes are a unit of language added to the front of a word to change the original word's meaning. Suffixes are a unit of language added to the end of a word to change the original word's meaning. Pause here to write down the notes indicated before moving on. Miskoye, ambe. Because we are animate nouns in Ojibwe, VTA words can have a vast variety of combinations of interactions between our 9 different pronouns. This means we can use VTA words to express I'm verbing myself, I'm verbing you, I'm verbing him or her, I'm verbing all of you, and I'm verbing they or them, etc. Again, we have our sign to write down all these points in your notes before we move on. VTA words can be manipulated into 120 different combinations in A form positive alone. That's not including A form negative, B form positive and negative, C form positive and negative, and our imperatives. Because there's such a wide variety of inflections in our VTA words, we're just going to focus on singular pronoun inflections for this course. So, let's learn some VTA words. What does the Ojibwe mean here? Gnawabam a mkwa. So, based on what happens in this video, let's translate Gnawabam a mkwa.
Gnawabam a mkwa.
If you guess that Gnawabam means look at the bear, you are correct. Be sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here before moving on. Misae, ambe. Chim animush.
Chim a numush.
Chim animush means talk about the dog. Make sure to write these down before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae nongam ambe mina. Ganjwebin a nimush.
Ganjwebin a numush.
Ganjwebin animush means push the dog. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae ambe mina. Pkidin a mkwa.
Pkidin a mkwa.
Pkidin a mkwa means let go of the bear. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae ambe mina. Bzindao a nimush.
Bzindao a nimush.
Bzindao a nimush means listen to the dog. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae ambe mina. Mkau a mkwa.
Mkau a mkwa.
Mkau a mkwa means find the bear. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae ambe. Pkiteo a mkwa.
Pkiteo a mkwa.
Pkiteo a mkwa means hit the bear. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe and the English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae ambe. No a nimush.
No a nimush.
No a nimush means point at the dog. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in English before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Misae, ahambe, bapa'e, mkwa.
Papa makwa.
Bapa'e, mkwa means laugh at the bear. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in English before moving on. Misae, ambe mina, zaga'e, nimush.
Zaga nimush.
Zage nimush means love the dog or be stingy with the dog. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in the English before moving on. Misae hambe mina no swaj nimush.
No swaj nimush.
No swaj nimush means follow the dog. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in the English before moving on. Miskoye ambe. Goshk bij kick.
Goshk bij kick.
Gosh bij kick means scratch the pot. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in English before moving on. Misae ambe gigon.
Gigon.
Gigon means eat the fish. Make sure to write down the underlined Ojibwe in English before moving on. Misae ambe yao mzinchigan.
Yao mzinchigan.
Yao mzinchigan means have the picture. Make sure to write down the Ojibwe in English before moving on. Misae ambe VTA words. And we have the sign, so make sure to write these down before moving on. So I'm aware that VTA words are sorted into 7 different categories based on their endings. These 7 different VTA words cover about 90% of VTA dialogue. We have our first type, which are M-enders, like Gunawabum and Chim. We have our N-enders, like Gonjwabin and Kidin. Glottal stop enders, like Bapa'e and Zaga'e. AW enders, like Zindao and Mkao. We have our dummy N enders, like No Swaj and Goshk Bij. We have fused W enders, like Kitao and Now. We also have irregulars, like Mo and Yao. VTA enders we are avoiding. In this course, we are omitting irregular VTA words. We are avoiding irregular VTA words because I only know of a few of them and I don't have a strong grasp of how to manipulate them yet. Make sure to write down this point before moving on. We'll give you a chance to pause here. Miskoye ahambe. In the dictionary we use for this course, our VTA words have an additional I suffix. This is an older imperative suffix other dialects have stopped using, and one Nipissing was in the process of dropping before they stopped producing speakers. So both versions are understood among speakers, but they do seem to prefer the I suffix version. As such, when we apply this suffix, we have a few things to take note of. Nipissing style imperative. Before we add our I imperative suffix, we have to apply one of 2 rules depending on the situation. Our second last consonant rule or our last consonant rule. Our second last consonant rule is when we look at the second last consonant in a word. If it has any vowel sound before it and a short one after it, we get rid of the short vowel sound before adding our suffix. If there's no vowel sound directly before the second last consonant, or it is followed by a long vowel sound, we don't distress anything and simply add the suffix. So for example, gonna wabum. The M sound at the end is our last consonant sound. B is our second last. The double A is our vowel sound. And the single A is our short vowel sound. We get rid of the short vowel sound. And then we add our suffix. Gonna wab me. Look at him or her. Mesh tone is another VTA word. The last consonant sound is an N sound. The second last consonant is a T sound. This one breaks both of our rules of our second last consonant rule. It has a consonant sound directly before the second last consonant, and it has a long vowel sound after our second last consonant. This means we don't drop anything because too many consonant sounds in close proximity are too difficult for us to say, and as vowel droppers, we don't de-stress long vowel sounds like double O. So we simply add our suffix, mesh tone. Make sure to write down this point in your notes before moving on. Misae ambe. We have the sign up, meaning write all these down, please. So some of the endings of our VTA words morph when we add the I suffix we discussed previously. This is something important that we should take note of. Our dummy N enders will often change a ZH sound to an N sound. We will cover and highlight when the ZH sound is maintained. But for now, we're going to highlight how the ZH changes to an N sound right now. So we have our word goshkbij plus our I suffix. So the I sound changes the ZH to an N. So we'd pronounce this goshkbene. So applying that, when we have no swaj plus the I, how would that sound? Noswane. Noswane. Make sure to write this all down before we move on. Miskoye. Ambe. Other VTA endings that will morph when we add the I suffix are our glottal stop enders. We have to divide them up into 3 different variations. We have our examples that have a long vowel sound before the glottal stop, like nbeye, put him or her to bed. So examples like nbeye will become nbeye. We have examples with a consonant cluster before the glottal stop, like nshke, anger him or her. Examples like nshke will become nshkeye. We also have examples with a single consonant sound before the glottal stop, like bapa'e, laugh at him or her. Examples like bapa'e will not change when the I suffix is added. Pause here in the video to make sure you write down all these points for your notes before moving on. Miskoye ambe. Our last example of morphing is our irregular example, m, meaning eat him or her. M plus our I sound will become mwe. Most other VTA words, when we're going to add the I suffix, will require you to check our second last consonant rule before adding that suffix. VTA lesson recap. VTA words are for interactions between 2 different animate nouns. VTA words have a wide variety of combinations, so we are just focusing on interactions amongst singular nouns. We have 7 types of VTA words based on their endings. We have our M enders, like ganawabum, chim, N enders, ganjwe bin, kidin, glottal stop enders, bapa'e, zaga'e, AW enders, like bzindao, mkau, dummy N enders, no swaj, goshkbij, fused W enders, pkitao, noa, and irregular examples like mo and yao. Transitive verbs are best introduced in their singular imperative form first, because from here to manipulate the verbs, we just need to add the appropriate prefixes and suffixes. Nipissing uses an additional I suffix for their VTA imperatives. This I suffix morphs some of our VTA endings that we cover in this lesson. We also have to be aware of our second last consonant rule when adding our I suffix. Misae aja, that's it for now.